So Friday night, our neighbor had a goose that's been hanging out in front of his house for a couple of weeks. And I think its leg is injured. So it just kind of sits there, all right? And you guys all remember the weather on Friday night, right? Cold, yeah, like it was supposed to be in the negatives. So our neighbor had to go out of town. He had to drive up to South Dakota to take his daughter. She's a senior. And they went up to go look at a university. So he said, while I'm gone, do you guys mind checking on the goose? And so Casey went down to check on the goose and make sure it had water, and all of its water had frozen because of our cold temperatures, right? So Casey comes home and he looks at me and he's like, I don't know what we should do about the goose. I said, well, let's go get it and we'll bring it back here for tonight. And he's like, okay. So we get our extra dog kennel out. We get on our quad and we cruise down the street to Brian's house. And here I am I'm like all excited. I'm like, we got a goose. This is so cool. I'm like, let me take a picture. It's dark out, right? And my husband's like, Carrie, and he's got this towel because he's going to go down over the goose to pick it up and put it in the cage. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I want to take a picture first. Let me take it. He's like, Carrie, I need your help. And so then I pick up the cage and I'm like trying to follow this goose around the yard, trying to get it to get in the cage. We get it in. And we put the cage on the back of the quad and we're driving down the street with the goose on the back of the quad. And we get into the garage and we shut the door. And I went to go get they like frozen peas and carrots. Yeah, I never knew this. I guess it takes a situation like this to actually figure it out. And so I got some frozen peas and then some dog food. I figured, I don't know, maybe it'll eat that. But it was so funny because we're just watching it, it's eating, and we got him a big thing of water and he's drinking. It's funny the way that they drink, and he just lets it sit in his mouth, and then he tilts his head up and it goes down his neck. And so then of course I had to call my dad because my dad loves geese. And so I'm on FaceTime with my dad and I'm following it around the garage. And I went up to actually hold my hand out. And this was after kind of checking it out, studying a little bit because I didn't want to nip at me, obviously. But it let me touch him. I'm like, this goose has definitely been around people. So I have to tell you guys, we let it stay in the garage that night. At first, its poop was normal, you see outside on the grass, solid. But because we let it drink so much water, it turned to green liquid and it smelled so bad. It was so disgusting. We went out there in the morning and my husband was just like, all right, we got to take the goose back home. So we took it back down to Brian's house. But we did name it. I asked my niece, she wants to be a vet. So I said, what should we name our pet goose? She's like, Fred. I'm like, it's a girl. And then I'm like, and then Brian, where I'm like, well, what do you want to name it? He said, George. And I said, okay, we have Georgina Fred. So we named our goose Georgina Fred. You like that? Honestly, it's just one of those things. It's have fun with the little things in life, you guys. And, oh, so fun. Let's see.